Hi, this is Matt Brady with Out of Sight TV, and I'm going to do something a little different than what I've typically done. Most of the videos that I've posted have just been light, kind of comedic. Uh, I grew up, was born and raised in Philly. I did my first YouTube video or set up a YouTube channel about 8 or 9 years ago. And really, I was just doing like little sketchy, dramatic comedy things about Bitcoin, man. And it was really just fun. At that point in time, most people using YouTube were really just putting up stuff about themselves, their personal life, their vacations, things like that. And people started to really make money off YouTube and get monetized. Guys like Mr. Beast became billionaires and all this other stuff. And they talk about different ways to get monetized and make all this money and do all this other thing. And they said, oh, you have to find your theme, or you have to find this, or you have to do that. And I really didn't have a theme, which is kind of what is the nature of what this video is about. Because this video, and it's going to be a series of videos, because it's a personal struggle that I've had to deal with. And most of the videos that I've made have just been, good-natured, funny, what's life like in Africa versus what life was like in Philadelphia, in the United States. And it's a very dramatic difference. But one of the biggest differences for me, and I never talked about this before, so this is kind of, it's groundbreaking for me. Because when I was in Philadelphia, I worked as a stockbroker, and I was pretty successful. I had all the symptoms of somebody who has ADHD. I was chronically late for everything, totally unorganized. My office looked like somebody had just came in and thrown papers and trash all over it. And I have a very good friend of mine who's very similar. I mean, the guy, we were really good friends. We worked together. He's a pretty wealthy individual, and he was just as big of a mess as I was, if not more. But we had a lot of fun together. And that's when he first went to a doctor and said that he was diagnosed as having ADHD. And I was like, come on, man. Like by this time we're both about 30, okay? And this is about 35 years ago. We're 27, 28. I'm going to be 63 next week, in 4 days, actually, 5 days. So at that point in time, my thoughts on ADHD was that it was really just an excuse for parents who had unruly kids in school, and the kids did all sorts of crazy stuff to the teacher, and the parents, oh, my little Johnny isn't a bad kid, he's just got ADHD, and that's why he blurts out in class and does all sorts of crazy wild things. And when he told me he's got ADHD, and back then it was called ADD, and then they changed it from calling it attention deficit disorder to attention hyperactivity deficit disorder. So they added the H for hyperactivity, but it's still the same thing. ADD and ADHD are technically the same thing. And then there's a guy who did brain scans, and the work that he did with ADHD, that was really groundbreaking. His name is Dr. Daniel Amen. He's he's written numerous books. I probably have about 5 or 6 of them. He also had shows, and I guess maybe some of the shows and things that he did were almost like telecommercials where you talk about ADD, then use it to sell his books and whatnot. But he was really good, and he did these spectrographs on the brain, and he showed that different parts of the brain with people with ADHD or ADD or whatever you want to call it had different parts of their brain, their frontal lobes, their prefrontal cortex, their temporal lobes. There were different parts of the brain that on these brain scans, they weren't showing any activity. So he was really groundbreaking because he physiologically applied some science to tell people, okay, well, this is what's wrong, and this is what you can do to fix it. And so I tried Ritalin. Finally, after hearing my buddy tell me about how much it's helped him, and I did actually see a lot of improvement. And just he wasn't as cluttered, he wasn't as messy. And I said, all right, I'll give it a try. And I had a doctor who retired a couple of years ago, and he was the first one to give me the Ritalin, and that really did work. And then after a couple of years of that, Adderall came out, and that was the next big thing. Okay, so for the next 30 or some odd years, I was just taking the prescribed dose of Adderall, which was 20 to 30 milligrams. 30 milligrams is pretty high. Usually it's like 20. You're supposed to take it like 2 or 3 times a day. Then they came out with the extended release version. And then the latest thing was Vyvanse, which was a combination of Adderall and some other things in there. But the copay on it, because it was new, the insurance companies weren't really paying for it. So you kind of have to come out of pocket for that. But that was pretty good. It had the stimulant in there, so it picked you up, and it didn't get you kind of as jacked up as the Adderall. It kind of kept you on a smoother keel. But like I said, I could go get a prescription for Adderall, and my copay with my health insurance was like $5 or $10 with the Adderall. With the Vyvanse, at first it wasn't even covered. It was like $200 or $300 per script. Then they started covering some of it, but not all, and the copay was still pretty high. It was like $70. So after being treated from the same doctor for 35 years, he retired about 3 years ago. And Adderall started to become used recreationally. Like people would use it like they would if they were like taking speed or meth or See, for somebody with ADD or ADHD, it has almost the opposite effect of what it does for somebody who doesn't have it. For somebody who doesn't have it, it gets them hyped up, like they just did some coke or they did some meth or something like that. For somebody who does have ADD or ADHD or whatever you want to call it, it kind of calms you down and helps you focus on what you're doing, and it kind of, it gets it gives you the stimulation, and it helps keep you on track. But it can keep you up at night. Okay, so sometimes they'll do something to help you relax. Maybe they'll give you like a benzodiazepam or something to help you sleep at night, like an Ambien or something like that. So it can become a vicious cycle. You take the Adderall in the morning, and throughout the day to get you up and going, but then you can't sleep at night, so maybe you take an Ambien or a benzo or something like that to help you get to sleep. And that, that's a cycle, and it can be effective. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump is admitted saying that he takes Adderall. He just did these medical tests at Walter Reed, and I looked at them on YouTube, and they said, well, they read the prescriptions. He takes Adderall, he takes Ambien, and he takes a blood thinner. And based upon his medical results, they were actually pretty good. He's got a pretty good cardiovascular function. The parts of the blood test that tell you, like creatine and liver enzymes, well as liver and kidneys seem to be functioning pretty good. No blockages in his arteries. He takes aspirin. He eats a lot of junk food. He's obviously overweight. They said his weight was like 225, 230. I think the guy's 260 if he weighs an ounce. They said his height was 6'3", and I don't mean to digress here, get off the topic of ADHD, but there were people on YouTube like panning his medical results, but the guy is pretty tall. I remember walking right past him in the Kit Kat Club in New York in the 90s. And that was where he allegedly met Melania Trump. And I'm 5'11". I'm a little above average in the United States. In Malawi, I'm kind of on the taller side. But yeah, he was at least 3 or 4 inches taller than me. So he's definitely at least 6'2", 6'3", and he's put on a lot of weight in the last 20 years, even in the last 5 or 6 years. Like, he looks a lot heavier now than he did in his first term. So physically, there probably isn't that much wrong with him. And the bruising and the other stuff, he takes a lot of aspirin too as a blood thinner because he likes junk food and doesn't eat vegetables. So he's trying to keep down the plaque and the other gunk that builds up in your arteries, which that can do, but it can also cause bruising. But then somebody else said they think he has narcissistic personality disorder, which I kind of think he does a lot of crazy stuff. And I'm not trying to make a political statement here one way or another, but he is fine functionally, except for the fact that he's probably at least 30 to 40 pounds overweight. I would suggest that there's some psychiatric issues there, and I don't want to get into that. But I do want to get back to the ADHD. My doctor retired. Now I can't get it anymore, or at least can't get it constantly. And if anybody out there, and they say that like 15% of the United States population does have ADHD, and they're on some sort of stimulant med like an Adderall or a Ritalin or a Vyvanse or something like that. Coming off of it is horrible. When you can't get it, for the first week, you're walking around tired, brain fog, confused thoughts, cloudy thoughts, and lack of energy. And then the worst part is that you still can't sleep, because insomnia is another pattern for people with ADD. They can't get to sleep at night. They're up all night thinking about stuff. So I had all these things going on. Can't get the Adderall consistency. Come to Malawi over a year ago, and I've been back home to the U.S. twice since I've been here. Once, the first time I came back, it was July and August of 2025. And that really wasn't so bad because it was summertime. And it was nice to see family and friends, go to the beach, go to the pool, hang out with my kids over there. So it didn't bother me, it didn't faze me. The second time I came back was December, 2 days before Christmas, the 23rd. And getting back was a nightmare. The winter of 2025-26 was a disaster. I got stranded in New York. By this time, I couldn't get Adderall. I kind of weaned myself off of it, but weaning yourself off of Adderall is tough. Managing your life with ADHD and not having any meds, that took a lot of getting used to. So I'm going to refer back to the doctor that I had referenced earlier, Dr. Daniel Amen, who's made a series of videos and written numerous books, and another guy who said that two key things to make yourself successful, and if you have ADHD and living and coping with ADHD, are: one, do something that you really like, that you're motivated with, that stimulates you. So I always really enjoyed the stock market, and I loved that. And then I looked up, is being a stockbroker a good career for somebody with ADD or ADHD or anything? Yeah, it's actually perfect because it's constant motion. There's, thousands of stocks traded every day, geopolitical changes that happen throughout the world. Like now you see when the price of oil goes down, stock market goes up. When oil goes back up again, the market drops. It's like that every day. It was like that when I got in it, and it's like that now. So fortunately, the financial world kind of kept me stimulated. The second thing is having a good partner, a good spouse to help manage it, okay? So my first marriage ended abruptly, and I don't have anything bad to say about my first wife other than, she had her problems, she had her issues, and alcohol was a problem for her. And alcohol, it can often be a problem for people with ADHD, because one of the problems with ADHD is your brain doesn't produce as much dopamine as the average person. So alcohol is tricky because when you take your first couple pops, you get this dopamine rush. And if you're feeling depressed and down, brain fog, you haven't had your Adderall, and you get a shot of, alcohol, all of a sudden you feel better, and, you take another shot and feeling okay. Then about the third or fourth drink, you're starting to get intoxicated, and after that, it just goes downhill. So alcohol it's a very tricky and conniving drug, and it's easy for people who are, suffering from ADHD to get caught up in a cycle of alcoholism or any other addiction for that matter. Fortunately, I didn't get to any level like that. And the only substance I used that would help calm down my ADHD would be alcohol, and that's not good. But it never got to a point where, I was, uh, consuming like a fifth a day or even drinking every day. But it did cause a couple problems for me. But I, learned not in Malawi. I've been here for a year, and being here, you can't get Adderall. Okay, so the nature of this video is actually how to deal with ADHD with no meds, no Adderall, no Ritalin, no Vyvanse, and not resorting to drinking heavily, every now and then, I'll be out and have a couple drinks, not much. I didn't really like alcohol either because it gave me horrible hangovers. They put stuff in the United States, like other things, sulfides, this, that, not only are you tired because you're hungover and your body's, just weaning off the alcohol, but you got like this brain cringing headache, and I hated that. So over here, my fiance, my girlfriend here, she doesn't drink, and it's easy not to drink. She doesn't drink. And the second thing that the guy said, besides doing a job that you like and that you're really interested in, make sure that you're with somebody who's a good partner, who's really understanding, and who's very organized. And my girlfriend here she's like that. I'm a mess, but she keeps me straightened out. So I'm pretty lucky. So coming over here, the first time I came here with very limited supply of Adderall, and I was taking what little I had. I'd take maybe a half of a 20 milligram in the morning just to kind of help get me straight and chug coffee. Then I went back home, and a couple months in the summer, I was able to get a little bit, keep me through. But by this time, I was weaning off of the alcohol, not the alcohol, the Adderall. And the alcohol wasn't really an issue. Having like a beer here and there to calm me down was about as far as I'd go with it. But I really started, they say another really good thing for ADHD is exercise. And I've been always active, involved in athletics and training. I was never great at anything. I was a pretty good swimmer. I played basketball. I ran track. I played some football in elementary school. And, always active and involved in athletics. And my mother, she used to load us up with vitamins. So I always took a lot of vitamins. So now they say that if you're going to deal with ADHD and you're going to deal with it non-medical, you're going to try to overcome it holistically, 3 or 4 things. 1, do something that you like, that interests you, that encourages you to do it. 2, try to have a good partner, a good spouse, good girlfriend, whatever your situation is. 3, good nutrition. Stay away from sugary junk food. I don't use a lot of sugar. I'll take maybe a couple teaspoons. When I make coffee, I'll make a big cup. It's really like, 2 cups, and it's, I might put a couple teaspoons per cup in there. That's about all the sugar I consume. I'm not big on sweets, ice cream, sodas, junk like that. Occasionally I'll have a Coca-Cola or something, more so for the caffeine. So, doing something that you like is important. Having a good spouse or partner that can keep you organized really helps. Supplements are definitely good. The main supplements that they recommend are omega-3 fatty acids, which you can get in fatty fish like salmon. Sardines are good. Eggs, even. Eggs have leucine, and they have fats in there that are the healthy fats. They've even, like 30 years ago, my father died of colorectal cancer when I was 12. And he was a big red meat eater, sausage and bacon for breakfast, some sort of sandwich that probably had meat in it at lunch, and then always some sort of red meat for dinner. He was a real meat and potatoes guy. And he died of colorectal cancer when I was 12. I guess he was about 52. I don't eat a lot of red meat, but they've come out and now they're saying things that they told you 30 years ago not to eat, or things that are now good for you, like eggs. Oh, don't eat a lot of eggs, or, have a lot of cholesterol and they'll clog your arteries, but now they're saying it's good cholesterol. But to get back on point, I'm talking about the supplements that are good for ADHD are the omega-3 fatty acids found in fish oils, salmon, sardines, B12, vitamin D3, and iron. Most of the B's, vitamin D, vitamin E, and then and then they say that coffee is a good stimulant, and it is. It actually does really help. And then this is green tea is supposed to be real good. And then this is green tea. This is regular green tea. And I've got another green tea. It's right here. It's green tea with lemongrass. Okay, so I wasn't really aware too much of this until recently. And this is something that Dr. Amen had talked about. There's something in lemongrass and green tea. It's called L-theanine. Okay, and what it does is it helps calm down your anxiety. It's good for muscle spasms. It's good for nervousness. So, like staying off sugar, being involved with somebody who is really organized and really caring, taking the right supplements, getting as much exercise as I can. As you can see, I've got this wrist brace on. I've got a torn scaphoid ligament, so I can't really lift hard weights. Everything has to be, real light, but it still gets something done. I do a lot of walking. I did a lot of walking back in Philadelphia. So this is the first, and I'm going to do a few series of, how to really battle ADHD without meds, because I'm stuck in a situation that I'm in Malawi. I've been here over a year, aside from 2 times that I went home. I'm going to head back to Philly for a couple weeks in July. But coming off the Adderall, man, that was a bitch. I mean, you're just down and out. you're walking around in a fog for, the first week is a nightmare. Second week, you're still in a fog. By the third week, you're bouncing back a little, but the coffee as a stimulant actually does work, keep you up at night. But you want to get something that helps you get to sleep. Um, so whatever helps you get to sleep. As long I'd avoid alcohol. Alcohol doesn't really help you get sleep. It might make you drowsy and sleepy, but it doesn't put you into deep REM sleep. But there's other stuff out there, and I'm going to get into that in some other videos. So just wanted to let you know, I'm coming off of like 30 years of using stimulant medication to treat ADHD or ADD, which really, it'll turn your life upside down if you don't treat it properly. And it did. It caused a lot of problems for me. And it took a while for me to get used to life without Adderall. But I'm getting used to it. And I don't have a choice here because I couldn't get it if I wanted to. But, I do want to let people know that if you do make some, choices in life that are probably good for you, on the whole, try to exercise regularly and not kill yourself. I mean, at 63, I can't go into the gym and try to bench, like 300 pounds or something. Like when I was in college, I went to GW, George Washington University in DC. And, there was a bunch of guys. They had the regular gym, but then there was this free weight gym that was in the basement of some dorm. And, if you could bench 300, they called it the 300 Club. They're like, you were like an official He-Man. And I got up like 3 of the 45-pound plates on each side. I think I had a 10 on top of it. So I think I got up, my highest was 315s. In college, I did make the 300 Club. So that was, I'm proud. I couldn't come close to that now. But especially with the scaffold, I really can't go too hard. But this is the first in a series of things I'm going to talk about dealing with ADHD on a non-medical basis. And I had to do it. I couldn't get it if I want. And I like it over here. And I'll go into other reasons why I like it. One thing about the United States, there's so much stuff going on. The TV, there's 200 channels. Everybody's got an 80-inch plasma flat screen TV on their wall. It's just sensory overload. I live in a big city, Philadelphia. You walk outside, there's shit going on everywhere. New York, same thing, worse, 24 hours. They say that New York is filled with people with ADHD, and I believe that because nobody sleeps there. Frank Sinatra called it the city that doesn't sleep for good reason. And you could go out to Times Square at 3 a.m. and it's just as busy at 3 a.m. as it is at 1 p.m. So I look forward to talking more about this and some of the ways that help me, overcome the obstacles that I'm still a slob. I still do. I misplace things. I lose things all the time. That's another characteristic. And the more important they are, the greater the likelihood is that you're going to lose it. If it's your keys, your wallet, your passport, your credit card, your birth certificate, maybe a watch, those are the first, a wad of money, forget where you stashed it. Those are the first things you lose. Something that you totally is useless. It's always right there in front of you. The stuff that you really need, they're the first things that you're going to use. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say goodnight. I hope you sign into my channel. I hope you join Out of Sight TV, 8793. I'm really getting back into the YouTube stuff. My girls put up quite a few good shorts up there, but I really wanted to address this because I think it's something that should be addressed and let people who do have ADD or ADHD know that without the stimulants, there is hope, and it's tough. It's tough getting off those things. But, I'm in the alley. I don't have a choice. So have a good night, and I'll see you next time. Please go to Out of Sight TV and sign up. We need subscribers. I hope to see you soon.